You're listening to Around Comics. 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 Comics.
You are listening to Around Comics episode 449. We're back after a spring, winter, late winter break. We're back just in time. Pitchers and catchers report as well as we do. I'm Brian Salazar. With me is Christopher. I spilled a glass of wine right before
everywhere.
And Tom, I'm surprised to be here. Caters, what's happening, John?
I'm here. Hey, what's up?
It's everywhere.
You spilled wine.
Everywhere.
Right before we were going live.
A glass of Boone's Farm.
No, it was a nice little cab. It got all over my new Boba Fett Lego.
Wow.
Or no, it's my Mandalorian. It went everywhere.
You know, Chris never passes up an opportunity to show off something in his little den.
Oh, I spilled wine all over my expensive toys.
My Gucci shoes.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Mandalorian armor.
We'll switch to this wonderful mezcal that picked up in Oaxaca, Mexico.
I thought you quit drinking. I thought you were sober now. What happened? No?
Yeah, whatever.
That didn't last. That didn't take.
Whatever.
Life's too short. Too short. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
Tom, I'm getting a little bit of a buzz or something.
Yeah, there's a little crackle.
Or a crackle. I think
Is that
Okay.
me?
No, I think it's Tom's microphone.
Here,
I'm gonna-
give me 1 second. Let me just try unconnecting it and reconnect.
It's like Morse code. We have Morse code. Someone is. That's worse.
That's way worse.
Give me 1 minute. Back on in just a second. Let me
All
see
right,
if
well,
I just
bam.
like
16 years of podcasting excellence.
this. Yeah.
Oh.
We're back. We're
Hi,
back.
bud.
and-
How you
and
doing?
Never better. Oh, I'm good. I'm pretty good. I'm not bad. You know, hanging in there. I'm just exhausted, to be honest.
Right?
Oh, look at you! You got a cute little booze glass from Mexico.
Bought this at a little market in
You just-
in Puebla City,
Oh,
Mexico.
You just Rick Baylessing it up, huh? Is that what's going on here?
A little Patty Heenich.
I don't know. who
I like
that
the
is.
Patty Heenich.
Another chef who is culturally appropriating Mexico.
No, she's actually from Mexico City.
Lies.
So I am culturally appropriating because she's from Mexico City, which makes me awesome. I don't know. Whatever.
My son, so over Christmas, my son wanted for Christmas, he wanted one of those like ancestry.com things.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to find out, you know, what he was. I think he was really hoping he was black. Well, he was like 2% South African or something like that, my side of the family. But we found out that both my wife and I are Jewish, which is interestingly, she's quite a bit. Like she's like,
We got to get Tom back in on this.
why?
Well, because his wife is Jewish and
his wife
kids
is
are
Jewish.
yeah. So you're how much Jewish?
Well, I was a very small percentage. It was like 2 to 5%, but my wife was quite a bit. Like,
Well, she's Bohemian,
yeah.
so
yeah.
they get around.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, that was but my kids are like 15% Jewish, and then mostly Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
which I knew that. And then
That's one of the things I found
Dutch,
out.
a little Dutch.
A little, yeah, the Dutch. It's one of the things I found out going through Mexico is that there's a lot of racism in Mexico between like the indigenous and the Spanish. That's like a thing. So Sal found out. So you're jumping back in. Sal found out they did an ancestry thing, and he's like half Jewish.
I'm not half Jewish. I am a very small. My wife is about like 30%. Which
Well,
we
there you
knew
go.
that she was, and then my kids obviously are, but yeah, it was
Muzzle off.
So it's Hanukkah at the Salazar household this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
I love it.
Yeah, we got all the. I'm mostly European though. That it's I like Dutch, Irish, German, and then mostly Spanish.
I think I told you guys about mine, where it's like, yeah, you're definitely white, like 99.7%. Like, no. The only surprising thing was how, like, it's like you're Dutch and German, and like a little, and some Irish, and some this and some. It's like all just different white people.
All right,
You're from Green Bay. You're 100% Green Bay.
I don't know what
It's still side.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Chris talked.
And
yeah, because it only is happening with Tom's mic. So
And you're low, Sal.
I'm low.
You're low.
Boy. Jeez, we just can't get anything right.
Right? We got to go back to the comic shop, Tom. And now I can't hear Tom at all. Hey, everyone. And now Sal is me. I am Sal.
Wow, this is just there we go. But Tom, you're still, it's weird. For whatever
All right,
reason,
let me try something else. I'll be right back.
Okay. Sorry. I don't know what to say.
We'll talk about Sal's Jewish heritage while you're gone.
Yeah, we'll talk some more.
So tonight at some point, we need to talk about The Last of Us.
Did you like my my little motion poster thing that I did?
I was jealous that it was so good.
Oh, thanks.
I was just like, God damn it, I'm gonna have to learn how to do this now.
It's pretty easy, honestly. It's not. I mean, Photoshop has so many tools,
right,
built into it at this point. It's really like what I did was me just going, okay, and I'll what the hell, as long as we got time
throw it up there.
So I was just playing around with Photoshop and like motion capture, and decided, hey, I'll do a Last of Us,
because you still have a hunger to like learn things.
Well, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I guess part of it is just like I don't do as much design work anymore. With I do, and the design work I do is like prototyping for mobile apps and that kind of stuff. So it's it's fun and I enjoy it, but it's a small percentage of the work that I do now, and it's not particularly
creatively driven. It's not cool, right?
Yeah,
it's not oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's like buttons and like there's only so much you're really doing to design an app. Like there's not a ton of creative design.
Let's see this thing. It's nice.
So I was like, oh, I want to try, and I love the show, so I just took. So basically, what I did with this is I took an image of The Last of Us, and I pulled them out of it,
layered it, right?
Yeah, so I just took them out of that image, put in my own background, and a couple of different, there's a couple of different photos on top of each other, and then I recolored the background. I recolored him a bit and her a bit to sort of blend it.
Sure.
And then I added video of like fog and
falling leaves,
just to give it a little motion.
It's one of the it's a trick that a lot of photographers use. I still do a lot of photography. Like train tracks are perfect, roads are perfect. It's leading lines is what we call them. You want to lead the viewer to a point, and so that condenses that image to convey that message that they're on the road or on a journey. It's fantastic. I'll tell you that That show is so good at what it does, and what it does is it forces
Murder people. Oh,
no, it's, I mean, The Walking Dead did that fine. There's lots of shows and properties that do that, just like, Game of Thrones did that so well that it's like, we're going to get you to love these characters, then we're going to kill them off, right? Like Bella
Right.
Ramsey and Pascal have been through this on Game of Thrones. They were both like beloved characters on Game of Thrones, spoilers, that died. But Game of Thrones did it in like this everyone's gonna die kind of thing where you expect it. The Last of Us, if you haven't played the game and you're watching the show, this last episode fucked me up so bad that I've watched it twice because apparently I'm a masochist, and I've gone through, and just the setup that they do to make you not just care about but fall in love with these characters and really emote with them, have empathy with them, understand them. They make scenes that make you understand their struggle in this horrible environment that they live in, and then they rip your fucking heart out and stomp on it so mercilessly that it is so well done from a craft standpoint, to a point that it's
I don't know.
painful.
I mean,
It's painful to watch that show. What spoilers? What they did with Sam and Henry in this last episode really fucked me up.
yeah, but I mean, you say it's well done, but like now, Tom, it's still clicking. You're a clicker. Tom is a clicker. I don't.
Tom is a clicker. He's sending out the sonar.
Yeah, let me just switch to
Yeah, switch
Now it
microphones.
seems okay. I don't know. But no, the problem I have with it is like it's I don't think it's a hard thing to do to get you to fall in love with people that are struggling and then kill them off.
But they
Is
do
sort
it
of
so. If the
an
way that they
easy, cheap thing, in my opinion.
the way that they did it with Ellie and Sam, it wasn't cheap. I mean, to see those kids playing together as kids and connecting with each other, and then that scene where, spoilers if you haven't seen The Last of Us,
oh, well, it's too late now.
and then that scene where this is a game that's been around for 8 years. The scene where he reveals to her that he is infected, and she's like, my blood can heal you, because she wants to believe so much that she can heal her friend. And then when it doesn't work.
Yeah, but I thought, honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to tear down the episode or tear down the show. I enjoyed the show very much.
Oh, so
and
good.
It was a gut punch, like at the end of that episode. But like analyzing it, if I'm going to look at it critically, it's like, why would she be that dumb? Like, they don't portray her as a dumb character.
She was desperate. She was she finally had it's probably the first friend that she has had in her life, like real friend.
I guess, but it just seemed like they don't even sort of give you the idea of like, oh, she's afraid to tell Joel about it because Joel will kill him.
Yeah.
And I guess you kind of assume that, or that
she knows.
But the idea of, oh, my blood, why would she have the idea that her blood would heal him?
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of the show, is that she's immune, and her blood, and in her mind, she's like 13 years old. Of course, she thinks that her blood might be able to save this kid, or this defenseless friend of hers.
Is she? I think she's a little older.
This is a sale. Thumbs down. Thumbs down.
Not at all. Not at all.
No, she's like 13 in the show. She's like 19 in real life. So
I think the show is very good and I enjoy it, but I do get, like, it was part of The Walking Dead why I got annoyed at it was, that was sort of it was just sort of revenge porn, and it was just like,
I
okay,
don't
we're
get that
going
feeling
to...
with this, though.
No, but I do get the same feeling of like, oh, we're going to introduce, like, every character that they encounter is going to die. And if it's just going to be episode after episode of them doing the same thing, I really am not that interested in the show.
Yeah.
It's annoying to me if you're just going to continue to do that episode. It's cheap. I don't think it's that good of writing. I think, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's that good of craftsmanship to do that over and over and over again. If that's what you're going to do, like, what is the point of that exactly, other than to sort of inflict pain on your viewers and to sort of, like, you know, every episode get people to talk about it, which I guess is, you know, something to do, but it doesn't necessarily make it a good TV show. Does it make it viral? Does it make it something to talk about? Yeah. Does it make it a good TV show? I don't know. I think it is a good TV show, but we've had 3 episodes, and in 2 of them, it's essentially been actually all of them.
5. It's 5 episodes.
Is it really
you
5?
know, yeah, yeah.
Well, in 3 or 4 of them, we've essentially been
Having
introduced characters.
crippling death.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, can we do something else in an episode? Is that all this is going to be? Every episode is just going to be someone
I can't
else.
do that. I can't handle that emotionally.
Well, I can handle it emotionally. I just don't find it entertaining.
Yeah.
I don't find it interesting or very,
You know, it's good storytelling because it does create an emotional response. And I know, you know, we talk about it. So, you know, I have appointment television that I keep up with. One of them is The Last of Us. The other one is The Bad Batch.
Curling.
No, The Bad
National
Batch.
Curling Championship. Bad Batch. Okay.
National Curling Championships.
Which is going on. The U.S. Senior Nationals are at Wauwatosa right now and Kettle Moraine. So,
I can't
anyway,
believe you're here.
I was doing ice. That's why I was like, "Are we recording at 8:30?" Because I'm doing shit.
As the president of the club, you obviously have responsibilities that you need to.
Not for another 3 years.
As the president.
No,
He
I'm
doesn't
on the
As
board.
president.
It's not
On
of
the board.
club. It's just as the
On
president.
the board. As the president.
But
So
you
only
know,
a matter of time till the rest of the board is gone, Chris. We all know it. You're gonna
Like a character from The Last of Us. They're all going to.
I'm just hanging on. I'm just hanging on. You know, but I watched The Last of Us, and it like crushes my soul. It's really good storytelling. I enjoy it. And then I watched The Bad Batch, which also has a lot of emotion and all of the feels, but there's a little bit of uplifting to that show that I enjoy, where you don't
lifts you up.
It's bleak, but there's a little bit more, you know, rays of sunshine in it that kind of keeps me hanging on, I guess. It's really good though. So that would, I don't know.
I'll have to take your word for that.
It's really
Chris,
good.
you only like you just in Chris's bleak landscape, bleak hellscape of a mind.
Right.
You know, where it's like Mordor up there. It's just like corrupted. You know, nature. The rules of nature have been bent. You know, to
The sky is always
twisted fashion.
black.
So
yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna dump all of my pop culture on the first, you know, half of the episode here. Something that is giving me a ton of joy right now that is going to alienate like half of the people that listen or watch this show.
Including me.
For whatever reason. I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy and it's fucking delightful. It's my wife and I are both playing it. It's a lot of fun.
Once again, I'll have to take your word for it. I don't.
So tell me more about this game. What
You're a
what
turf?
do you do?
Do you have to sign up to be a turf in order to play this game? Is that,
right? You know, and that's that, and we'll dive into that a little bit because I understand why people
do they have the goblins who handle all the money?
Yeah, against
you start out in Gringotts.
The anti-Semitism that I can't.
The
I can't support that. As I am a Jew now, I am.
Why
Jewish.
do goblins have to be Jewish? Yeah, it's.
Oh, why do the strange, suspicious creatures that handle all the money? I mean, come on.
Bushy eyebrows and large noses.
It's just like
Why would they be? You know, yeah. What the hell? What the hell?
I'm a horrible person. I'm enjoying the game.
We know. We understand. We understand. No, it's seriously. I don't know. I could care less. I've seen the game. My son has it. He says it's fun. I haven't played it. I've been playing UFC 4. I am now the double champ. I am the welterweight and light heavyweight champion of the world. I'm undefeated, 22 or 24-0, all first round knockouts. You know, my skill is just undeniable. I am the greatest champion of all time in the UFC. That's what
You are the greatest.
I am the greatest.
Okay, Ricky. Okay, Ricky Henderson.
I'm a pretty good Mario Kart driver. Just gonna say.
Just gonna throw that out there. You know.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw that out there. You know, I've been known to tear it up on the old 20.
We lost Tom again.
Tom's gone.
Tom, oh, there he's back. We're having internet problems.
I'm here.
I don't know what's going on.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the Flash trailer?
No, can we watch it?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I only saw the teaser that was on.
I did not watch the Super. I watched the last 2 minutes of the Super Bowl.
Oh, just the last 2
Oh.
minutes.
Well,
It was a
that's
good
all you
game.
got to watch, right? The last 2 minutes of an NFL game.
No, it was a good game. What are you talking about? It was terrific. Let me.
Eagles fans would disagree with you,
Well, it was a good game. It's not my fault their team choked. I can't.
right?
They
Don't hold. Don't hold.
Gave up frickin' 25 points or whatever in the fourth quarter. All right, here we go. Here's the actual full trailer. Let's take a look.
Tell me something. You can go anywhere. Another timeline. Another universe. So why do you want to stay and fight to save this one?
Because this is the world where my mom lives. I'm not going to lose her again. Time has a pattern that it can't help reliving. Different people, different worlds, drawn to each other like magnets. My face.
One Flash is
So my face.
You stole my. It's Face Off.
If you were to go into the past, you have no idea what the consequences can be. Bruce, I could fix things. You could also destroy everything.
This can't be happening. I completely broke the universe.
Sorry. We've been waiting for you.
I created a world with no metahumans. And now there's no one to defend us.
Want some help?
Nice.
You are?
Yeah. I'm Batman.
That's awesome.
If I can't undo what I did, if I can't get back, there might not be a future. What's the play? Batman, what do we do?
We try not to die.
Who is that?
It's not Clark.
My name is Kara.
Oh, awesome.
Barry. Barry, what are you doing? Our kids are gonna want to see this.
There you go.
That looks super fucking fun.
Yeah, it does. I think it's interesting. I mean, you know, it's interesting because there's been, you know, there's like, I don't know what it was on. It was TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or something. And it was some 40-something-year-old dude like screaming into a microphone and saying that like they can't let Ezra Miller be Flash. That is a fireable offense. Whoever is letting this happen should be fired. It's like, really? Like, why do you really care that deeply about who's, the actor in a movie and what he's
Ezra
done?
Miller is kind of a train wreck of a person.
Listen, he's a young, rich, famous kid who's been drunk and done some stupid shit.
Yeah.
Oh, big fucking deal.
Is it
Okay?
going to
Like,
make is he going to be really entertaining in a Flash movie? It appears so.
Well,
All right, let's talk to the resident Flash fan. Tom, your opinion.
It'll probably be okay. Like,
life will go on.
yeah. I mean, it's fine. Whatever.
But I was thinking about it like, okay, you would think, he certainly has had enough things in his short time as a famous person that you would think most studios would not continue on with the movie. But
yeah.
my thinking is this is such an important part of the DC, like the next 10-year plan for DC. This movie is so important that they have to release the movie. Like they just can't start over because this is going to reset the entire universe. I mean, they basically say it in the trailer. Like this is going to reset everything.
It's Flashpoint.
Yeah, they're gonna retcon. I said they're gonna retcon Superman doesn't kill Zod.
Yeah.
So Superman never kills. They're gonna get rid of all this stupid Scott Snyder bullshit, or not Scott Snyder. What's the other?
Zack Snyder.
Yeah, Zack Snyder bullshit.
Hey, be careful. He's one of Green Bay's favorite sons, next to Tony Shalhoub.
Well,
it's fine. It's fine. I didn't like his movies. I didn't like his movies that much. So,
but I think that's really what it is. Like we have to put this movie out because it's just if we don't, then we don't have a 10-year plan. Like we don't, you know what I mean? We're gonna have to make another movie and put.
They're like, just put it out.
Yeah, fuck it. We'll take the heat. Like, what's the?
Yeah.
But I also think like it's funny. You the Harry Potter game. Nobody seems to stop buying Harry Potter shit as much as people now hate J.K. Rowling.
It's one of the best selling games of all time.
Nobody gives a shit. I don't think anyone really gives a shit about what Ezra Miller has done or hasn't done.
No.
I think it's just like I don't know if we're getting to a point where we're sort of past the idea of everyone's offenses has to be reconciled before.
I think people are starting to realize that internet outrage exists on the internet, and a whole lot of people don't live and die on the internet like people think they do.
Right.
I also think part of like just generally in culture the last 6 years, like people have sort of discovered that like you don't have to actually be embarrassed by what you've done.
Well, that's the funny thing. Nobody shows shame like
about
anything.
Things.
Yeah, about actual things. There is no shame in it. Like once people realized, hey, I can be horrible and do stupid shit constantly and make a ton of money doing it. Everyone just got rid of any shame whatsoever, except, it's like if you are, an actor or something, then you're supposed to have shame. But everyone else, like any YouTube
when Kobe Bryant died horribly, and we collectively celebrated the life of Kobe Bryant and didn't mention the horrible rape, I was like, yeah, people can get over anything.
Alleged rape.
Sure.
It was alleged.
Yeah, sure.
What? He wasn't convicted of any crime.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever.
Listen, I'm just saying.
At that point, I was just like, you know what? People can get over anything.
Well, that's just, I mean, it is silly. It's like people just act like, every offense is such the biggest thing and everyone has to be accountable. But the reality is, I don't know if either of you been watching Sarah Silverman on the
The Daily Show, a couple clips here and there.
So the one I was laughing at was she brought up the story that in like Iowa and somewhere else there's like Republican governors or Republican politicians that are trying to lower the legal working age for children to like 14 and like how many hours they can work, and they want them to work in like the meat packing industry and construction shit like that.
Yeah, but not immigrants.
Yeah, no.
But fucking not immigrants.
Yeah.
Children, yes, but not fucking immigrants.
And there was a skit about it, and Roy Wood Jr., who I think is just hilarious and genius. He's like, no, I hate his whole thing was like there's a kid named Kevin on his block who he hates, and he wants him to get a job, so he stops egging his house and stuff like that. And Sarah Silverman's like, wait, I don't think this is right. We can't have children, in the workforce. This is not right at all. And he's like, do you have an iPhone? It's like, yeah, we could get over anything. If it's just far enough away from us, we can let anything slide. So
it's like that guy from the rep from Long Island, who turned out he made up a bunch of his stuff. It's like,
Santos.
You don't have to
Santos,
quit. Yeah,
Santos.
you don't have to quit.
No.
Yeah, it was.
There's no shame.
We will bring this back to comics, and comics have repeatedly throughout history outsourced work to artists in countries that they could pay less to. Like
it's everyone.
Ernie Chua, Ernie Chan was a prolific inker because he lived in the Philippines.
Well, it's I don't know. It's all silliness. It's just Speaking of comics though, so I thought it was interesting, we didn't get a chance to talk about James Gunn though. He announced the whole
the slate
of things. And then according to a website called what was it called? Cover Price. The weekly top 10 of the week of February 6th were all the books related to what he announced. So the number one book was Authority. Number 2 is the Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Batman, of course, DC Legends, Booster Gold, Swamp Thing. All those things in there, which is kind of interesting that, just not even the movies, just an announcement. And
that they will.
Yeah, it's pretty well. What'd you guys think? I mean,
let's you want to do a point by point rundown of them that can kind of be the second half of the show?
Give me the list.
Let's do it.
I don't know if I got to look up a list. Hold on. I don't think I have the list. But...
No, I'm.
You got the list?
I'm excited. No, we can
put
talk.
Me on the spot. I didn't have.
Let's start just because I grabbed it off the top of the stack. Tom King's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, is going to be the basis for the relaunch of Kara Zor-El. Even though we see Kara in Flashpoint, right? Or the Flash movie.
The Flash movie, yeah.
We're assuming that is going to be Supergirl.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why. I mean, I think James Gunn mentioned he really loved that book.
It's a great book.
I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the basis of Supergirl, because that book is her not on the planet. So I'm not sure if necessarily that book is going to be the basis of the Supergirl in the DCU, but it looks like we're going to have Supergirl in the DCU and probably a big part of it. But
I do like that they're doing something that Marvel has gotten very good at since the Disney acquisition, in that they're going to start
making
money, but they're going to start interweaving the TV, or the not TV, I guess we should say, the serialized properties with the movies. We're going to see a much tighter integration between what they're doing on HBO Max, with what they're going to do on with the movies, like we're seeing Marvel do with Disney Plus, right?
Although they just recently announced that they're gonna have less shows on Marvel Disney Plus, so they're gonna spread them out more. They're not gonna have as many.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're starting to see the end of the streaming wars, where it was this explosion. Part of that was, with COVID, even though I think a lot of that was slated before COVID hit. But it was just like an avalanche of new series and creative output. And I think a lot of the streaming services have been like, yeah, maybe a little too much, and this costs a lot of money. And so we're seeing, less. We're seeing a lot of stuff is being shelved and pulled, prematurely. But I think with the comic stuff, we're going to still see a nice stream of entertainment, both DC and Marvel properties.
Yeah, so if we want to continue, I do have the list now. So we do have Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, science fiction adventure, which will be based on Tom King. Oh, okay, so you are right. It is going to be based on his amazing award-winning recent comic stories. Presents a Supergirl viewers are not used to seeing, so maybe she will be off-planet.
Right? It's serialized?
No, that's a film project.
Okay, that's a film. Okay.
Yeah, so films...
It's a great book. Yeah, read it. It's a great book.
Films are Superman Legacy, written by James Gunn. It'll hit theaters July 11th, 2025. It will focus on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. That sounds boring.
They have not announced Superman, though. It's apparently Henry Cavill is out.
Yeah, but maybe who knows? That could be a smokescreen.
I like him. He's a good Superman with a good script.
He's a little old now, though. I think that they want.
I like him.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah,
they could find some other big dude to,
sure,
or some other handsome guy they can put on steroids.
Yeah, get him ripped. Superman ripped.
Another film would be The Authority.
Nice.
Wildstorm characters will join the DCU as members of the Authority, take matters in their own hands to do what they believe is right. I'm assuming that's sort of not going to be quite as
gray area. Enter the gray area.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like that movie has the potential to be a big letdown to Authority fans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it won't be as fucking
great, but maybe it will. I mean, it's James Gunn. Look what he did with Peacemaker and Suicide Squad. So who knows? Maybe it will be R-rated and fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It
might be one of those things too, where it's like all the stuff that it's influenced since it came out has happened, and people have read, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Do you think that the Authority runs the risk of being 25 years old at that point, and we think of it very nostalgically, but when it hits mass audiences, it won't seem as impactful?
I mean, it depends on who makes it, right? Like anyone can. I mean, I can see it working. Like just like if you think of just like the widescreenedness of it, I could see someone capturing that idea, like just like everything's huge and big and like making it a spectacle, sort of an Avatar-esque, like just
is it more like The Boys?
Yeah, it's like I don't know. Like there's different things you can pull from it to be like what's like going to be the like thing that's most interesting or most like compelling, right? Or like from that book.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they're going to lean a little bit on sort of the anti-authoritative nature of the Authority, where they were not, they weren't the JLA, they weren't the JSA, they're the Avengers, they're not working for anyone, they're doing whatever they thought was the right thing, which was what the Authority started out as. That was sort of the idea. It's like it's the JLA, but they don't give a fuck.
Do you did you like the Warren Ellis Authority or the Mark Miller Authority?
I probably like the Warren Ellis more than the Mark
Yeah.
Miller, but I liked them both.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I liked them both.
I love the Mark Miller, Frank Quietly Authority.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean,
So good.
I think they're both good in different ways.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they're different.
They're different, right? Like
Yeah.
I really liked the Ellis Authorities, like just like giant scope,
Big ideas.
just like huge, how huge everything was, and like that's very, very bold, both artistically and story wise, of being that sort of widescreen and big action, and like at the time it was like a whoa, like what is this? Like just felt different and like
Will they
aware.
Will we have the first male gay superhero couple in the Authority?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe.
Yeah. For
Are they
sure.
would they be the first? I'm just trying to think. Would they be the first?
From like the big two.
Right. Well, I mean, in movies. I'm not talking about in comics. I'm just.
Like big two movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Right. I can't think of anything else that.
Probably missing something, but yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Next up is The Brave and the Bold. The DCU will introduce its Batman and Robin in this unusual father-son story inspired by Grant Morrison's comic series. So, are we going to see Bat Cow in The Brave and the Bold? My son was blown away when he saw Bat Cow in the cartoon, the animated Super Sons, which was awesome.
Well, this
And
is
I'm
going to be
who did that. I'm like, that's Chris Burnham created Bat Cow.
This is going to be Damien, right?
I assume, yeah.
Mhm.
Father and son. So
Yeah.
Damien. It's gonna Batman. Who's gonna be Batman? It's not gonna be
Ben Affleck.
Michael Keaton. Is it gonna be Michael Keaton?
No. Ben Affleck's too old.
It's not gonna be Affleck. It's gonna be a new Batman. I wonder. Yeah.
And it's not going to be Edward Diggory.
Who's that?
Twilight guy.
Oh, the Batman.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, it's not going to be Pattinson.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it be though?
Because I think they put out a release that those movies and like the Joaquin
Joker.
Phoenix Joker exists out of canon.
Alternate universe.
Yeah, it's out of canon.
Interesting. Okay.
Different Earth.
Different Earth. Yeah.
Yeah. It is funny how they're just going right back to fucking
It's pre-crisis,
alternate realities, baby.
Pre-crisis.
No.
We never learned our lesson.
Yeah. Fuck it. Tell good stories.
Yeah. Then we got Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Then we have Swamp Thing.
Yay.
The film
Again.
will investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing. I wonder. I don't see Swamp Thing really working that well as a film.
It never does. It never does.
It's just such a
Because it's never that much about Swamp Thing,
Right.
It's like like he's part of the story, but what made I guess when I think of like the Alan Moore Swamp Thing or the better Swamp Thing stories I've heard, it's like he's a part of like a bigger, wider tapestry of things,
Right.
where it's like hard to be like, here's a story about Swamp Thing, doing Swamp Thing stuff,
He's the Crypt Keeper,
Okay.
right?
Do we get?
He's the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, he's got a little
Yeah.
bit of that. Where I mean, Alan Moore used him as the vehicle to tell stories about really fucked up people.
Yeah.
And he was the I don't know, magic character that came in. He's
the Sandman.
Yeah, he's the Sandman of that universe, and so that's I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, because there's different things you can do. Do you make it a horror kind of movie? Do you
have
make
to?
it? Well, but
It's at its best. At its best, it's a horror.
At its
series,
best to
right?
you, but like for a major motion picture, are most people going to want to go see?
It's not going to be a rom-com.
Hey,
That
Adrian,
could-
Adrian Barbeau.
It's
What?
James Gunn, so you never know, right?
You never
Sometimes
know.
it was a rom-com.
Right.
You know?
Sometimes, yeah. Then we got the television projects for HBO Max. We got Creature Commandos, a 7-episode animated show
Fucking
in which
love it.
Amanda Waller creates a black ops team out of monstrous prisoners. James Gunn wrote all the episodes of the first season, so that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And it's the lead is going to be Bride of Frankenstein, I believe.
Nice.
Sign me up.
But because we know that in most military units, a woman is leading. That's
Absolutely.
Historically, that's how we've seen things. We got Waller starring Viola Davis. This series features Team Peacemaker and will be written by Crystal Henry and Jeremy Carver from Watchmen and Supernatural,
Nice.
respectively.
Viola Davis of the EGOT now.
That's a weird,
She got her EGOT.
what's that show going to be, though?
It's going to be about Waller fucking people up.
That sounds kind of, but no, I mean, it's Viola Davis. Are they going to it's going to be a prequel, like her in the field? It's going to be her in a fucking office. Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's going to be her sending people out to fucking die.
Yeah, interesting.
It's the wall, man.
Booster Gold. Booster Gold uses basic technology from the future to pretend to be a superhero in present day. That James Gunn behind that. It has to be funny.
Yeah.
You got to get somebody who's the right guy to play Booster Gold. I mean, it has to be someone that can just be a likable schmuck.
20 years ago, Greg Kinnear.
I don't think Greg Kinnear was funny enough.
Okay.
I love Greg Kinnear. I think he's terrific.
20 years ago,
maybe.
Ashton Kutcher.
Maybe.
No one that I can think of now.
Ryan Reynolds is the obvious choice. I
was thinking not Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah,
He's
10
pretty
years
funny.
ago, Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Well, why 10 years ago?
Because he's too old now.
Why does he have to be young?
You think Ryan Gosling would be good at it?
I think we've talked about The Good Guys.
Yeah.
He's
nice guys.
Or Nice Guys.
No,
Love
fucking
them.
thank you, Film Force 5, for turning me on to now one of my all-time favorite fucking movies.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Great.
Yeah,
movie.
he's really funny, and he could pull off the part. He can pull off I'm gonna con my way into you're gonna think I'm a hero,
Right.
Vibe of it, of being able to
but enough of a
kind of
doofus.
almost pull it. Yeah.
Okay, James Gunn, we know you're listening. Ryan Gosling as Booster
Yes,
Gold.
I don't think it'll be Ryan Gosling, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they get. Then we get The Lanterns, enormous TV event series, follows the intergalactic cops of Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan as they uncover a dark mystery. Is this going to be like a buddy space cop movie?
I hope so.
You get
And I'm calling it now.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
Guy Gardner is going to be a part of it.
Oh, he has
even though they're not announcing it.
Yeah, even if it's just a cameo, you got to have. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about a show like that is you can have so many other characters come in and out of it, and I mean it's space, so you can do all sorts.
Yeah.
And James Gunn loves being in space, so
James Gunn loves his Grant Morrison is what you're really learning from this of between talking about Ultimates, the All-Star Superman and referencing for this or Batman and Robin,
Right.
all those elements. It's this sounds a little bit like the Morrison Green Lantern, where it was all he's a space cop and he's out in this,
not an insurance salesman,
not a toy salesman or truck driver.
Well, that was what called Green Lanterns, right? Or the Green Lantern, right?
Yeah. I forget exactly what it was, but yeah.
Yeah. I hope it's like a buddy, kind of. I mean, obviously they're not going to do a straight Lethal Weapon sort of buddy cop thing, but like play on that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah,
I
I
it'd be
think
kinda fun.
I think they'll pull a lot on the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams run of the liberal conservative angle of it.
Okay. So
Makes
who's
a lot of
the
sense.
who's the conservative? Hal?
Hal's always the conservative. Yeah,
Yeah, I suppose so.
Hal's a cop, man. Hal is
He was
Hal's
a
always
pilot.
been a Republican.
Hal was a pilot. He was never a cop. He was a freewheeling jet pilot fighter.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
He's
In the
Hal-
60s.
Yeah, Hal was always the Republican out of the group, and Ollie
I don't
was
think either
always
of them were
no. Ollie was always the
super liberal, but
the liberal. Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah,
Maybe they flip it and they make the black guy the conservative.
I doubt it. I doubt that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
I
white-
doubt that I doubt it's gonna pull from that. Because like I just
I
feel
hope not,
like
'cause that
Interesting.
sounds terrible. I don't want to watch that already.
Okay.
I don't want to watch that. Please don't do that. Just make it fun and space cops, and they could have different views, but I don't want like the Republican Hal Jordan. That's not, you know what I mean? Like,
Nobody wants the Republican
Yeah.
Hal Jordan.
then we have Paradise Lost, set in Themyscira. I can't remember. Themyscira, home of the Amazons and birthplace of Wonder Woman. This
But
drama
this is a
focuses
prequel
on the-
like 100 years ago or something.
Well, why don't you let me finish reading?
I'm sorry. Shut
Yeah.
up.
Focuses on the genesis and political intrigue of an island of all women. So there you go. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Before, it sounds like before Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. That's sort of the slate of 10 movies and shows that they're going to be doing after the Flash. So some cool shit.
I will watch them all.
In James
It'll be
Gunn, I
fun.
trust. I do like James Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it'll be fun. I think like I think someone with like maybe a sense of humor might do Superman some good.
yeah, right.
Yes.
Like as opposed to like the sort of deathly serious, like like someone with a little more like willing to have fun.
You mean not a
with it.
alpha bro with a fucking ego
Yeah.
the size of Rhode Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just inject like Superman's also kind of charming and like fun.
Although I'm a
and-
little worried because Supergirl already looks like she's just constantly pissed off.
She does look angry.
Right. Can we not have everybody angry all the time? Maybe.
yeah.
Well,
Did
what's
look like she was in some type of prison though, so it's like
Yeah. I get that.
I mean,
get that.
negative? She got negative zoned, maybe.
I just hope they
Phantom zoned. You
Oh, I'm
mean?
sorry.
Phantom Zone.
Phantom zone,
Negative
sorry.
zone.
Sorry. Uh,
Jesus Christ.
So speaking of people that lighten things up and make things fun, let's
Better.
wrap up. Tom told us that he took a big Frank Miller dive.
The big shit on Frank Miller. Oh no.
No,
What-
no.
So what is this Frank Miller dive? What?
I was after we talked about Kevin O'Neill and I was sort of like I was thinking about like the thing that I liked about Kevin O'Neill was like how it was like you couldn't quite peg what type of story it was from the art all the time, and it didn't always like you kind of had it would be hard sometimes to kind of like be like I know what this story is, so I was, and we've talked about Dark Knight Returns so much lately. I decided to reread it, and I was like, and I read some Daredevil, went back, read some All-Star Batman, and
Wow.
yeah, I was just like, because I was like, oh, you know what, like. And I won't say this about all of them because I don't think All-Star Batman quite lives up to the same level as Dark Knight Returns. But, one of the things that, when I was reading those, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of how Frank Miller makes me feel too, where I'm like, sometimes I'm not sure what how exactly I'm supposed to feel about what's happening in this story. And the way, especially like in Dark Knight Returns, which, as any true great piece of literature does, it always holds like more, it it always holds more like surprises within it the different times that you read it, right? And you're like, now I feel differently about this than I did, like the last time I read it, as opposed to like, as much as I enjoy a good Flash issue from like, the 70s, I can't say that any different viewpoint of it pops up when I read it now as opposed to that. But reading Dark Knight Returns this time, the thing that really struck me was sort of like, and I maybe it was because you're talking about Kevin O'Neill, where I was like, oh, Frank Miller's really like, he's really fucking with me in this, because I never really quite know, like, he always like, there's an element to it where you're like, I see the point of view that he has, that he's, or I don't know if he has it, but this is like the point of view of which this story is told, of like everything is falling apart, and like, our permissive society has allowed things like the mutants to take over, and Robin's parents are old hippies who don't even pay attention to her. And there's these elements where it's like, okay, I see where the viewpoint of this is, right? But then he'll like undercut it with some things too, where you're like, oh, wait a second. Like, I thought, I was almost certain I totally knew where it was, but it's almost like he sneaks things in there to make you be like, I'm unsettled and I don't know. And like, he does such a good job of selling you on like Batman as like this figure of like sort of righteous fury and like anger and justice is a good thing in this permissive world where we have allowed gray area to like mix into everything. But then anytime you are in Batman's thoughts, Batman's a lunatic who never talks about doing anything for anybody other than like, I want revenge and I want to hurt the bad guys.
The war. It's just about the war.
It's just about the war. There is no point where he's like, for the good of the city, I need to do this. Like, at least in his internal monologue, when you hear him thinking, it's never that, right? It's all about trauma, and it's about his revenge, and it's about like the thing in him that he can't control. Like, he tried not to be Batman, but it didn't work. Now he's Batman again, and like just the unsettledness of that, like when you're not in Batman's head, it's clear that Batman is like, yes, we need somebody like this to do this. Like, and all, the doctors saying that Two-Face is healed, they're just permissive, weak, liberals in this world, right? Yeah. And then when you get in Batman's head, you're like, this guy does not care. I mean, he does care about the times he does reference like people dying is in relation to like, how many have I let the Joker kill? Like, it's very abstracted, and it's more about his relationship to the Joker than like an actual like feeling about other people. And I guess in previous times when I've read it, I've never really like thought about like, and again, it's like one of those things where I think, I don't know if you do that, if you would ever do that on purpose. I don't know if he's doing that on purpose, but like the way this,
I don't think he's doing either of those things on purpose. I don't think that he's necessarily, and I think that's where like we tend to read into things in some ways.
Yeah.
Because like, to me, The Dark Knight Returns was much more like Taxi Driver. Like, I don't watch Taxi Driver and think that Travis Bickle's perspective is Martin Scorsese's perspective.
No.
And yet
he's telling the story.
People read The Dark Knight and they think Batman's perspective is Frank Miller's perspective.
Oh, that's
I wouldn't say Batman's perspective is his perspective.
Well, the perspective of the book, though, is his perspective, as opposed to, I'm telling a story about a character in a place, and I'm just telling the story of how I see those characters, how I see that place, as opposed to Frank Miller has some sort of message that he's trying to give to us through Batman.
But I do think it's born of it's of a time, right? It's born of like a late 80s sort of like
mid 80s.
You know, mid 80s.
Early 80s is when it was done.
Yeah.
Like sort of that mid, like the fear of crime in cities, like of like that time period was a thing like culturally that
New
existed.
York in the
Now,
early 80s was fucking rough.
I don't know.
The 80s ushered in, I mean, because of the 70s and the crime that was rampant and everything in major cities and the fear, you know, that ushered in the Republican, you know, Reagan era, which was all about control and law and order. I mean, it's very common. It's like, you know, it happens over and over again. Law and order, you know, so that was Trump.
But I was going to say, you know, like, I think, I don't know, you know, I don't think he has some agenda with it. I think that's just, there's like, the structure of this book is like the story that's to me is like within the story, that's the tension of the story is like, because he's always constantly pitting like different viewpoints, but he also does tricks in that too, of like when, you know, as he foresees the future of talking heads endlessly, like talking about stuff and the perceptions of stuff and talking about nothing. Talking about nothing, or just like, you're right and I'm wrong. And like doing things with that too, that's really interesting, where it's like, he never lets, just when you think maybe like one of the viewpoints is like the viewpoint that's correct, he'll like undercut it a little bit of like, it's not like, this person isn't totally right. When he goes into the elements where he's talking, where he shows Batman inspiring people, like he undercuts it too, because it's like the idea of like the guy who's like a failed wrestler who puts on a Batman costume and gets murdered trying to stop a crime, you know, and it's like,
not a good thing. He's not presenting it like, oh, he's inspiring people, but that's not necessarily a good thing.
It's not a good thing, right? And it's like the way he mixes all those elements together is interesting. And I think like as I get older and I read it, and as I think current events bring things back around, right? Like things always come back around. Like the tension in that story is a tension that still exists. It exists more now than probably any time in my adult life, where you are having these conversations about like what is the nature of crime? Like, is it because we're permissive? Is it because can people be rehabilitated? Can someone be, you know, like
fixed, or are they just bad?
What they are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Or it's like, what are those things, right? And like,
what causes crime? No, and I think that's like, let me ask you this, because I didn't really think about this before, but as you were sort of talking about it, something came into my mind do you think that in some ways, because now looking at it in the way that you're describing it, you've sort of, I'm thinking of it again, and in some ways I almost look at like, you know, the way that he portrays Gotham as a permissive city and a permissive culture that's allowing this stuff to happen. He also uses it as an excuse for Bruce Wayne to be Batman again.
Yeah.
But but he doesn't present that as a good or healthy thing. Like he presents that as, this is an obsessive guy who now has an excuse to put on a costume and go beat people up.
Batman's a lunatic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's not,
it's
not, and that's why it's so fucked up, because it's like, he's showing us, oh, look at this city. Look at these, you know, the doctors and the scientists, they're so weak, and they give everybody a pass. And that's why these criminals are out of jail or out of mental institutions. That's why the Joker gets out. Right. But he doesn't necessarily present then the solution to that is Batman as a positive thing, where you would think
because
he
it's
would.
like, because it's also like set up in a way where like, if you took the Batman part, this seems stupid to say, if you took the Batman part, if you took the parts where you have a window into what Batman's thinking, and you made a book that had just the news talking about him or like people talking about him,
Right.
like it's different, right? Because like all that stuff starts leaning into like the myth of Batman, and like people like reacted like, oh, he's back, and like it's that like tension to me, like that's really interesting of like, because you'll flip from one page of that to like Batman, who's doing something heroic, but is like he's possessed. He's like not like
He's obsessed. He's obsessed
he's
about
not like
revenge.
finally I can save Gotham, and like like he saves people, but it's always like
Secondary.
in context of like hurting the bad guys. Like he's obsessed with hurting that, like it's
an excuse.
It's interesting.
It's an excuse for him to do what he wants to do, which is beat the shit out of bad guys, because he's full of pain from his parents being murdered. And a victim just gives him the excuse. And that's how he sort of portrays them, is they almost don't matter, except they give him a reason to go do what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. It's not a healthy thing. And that's why it's like, I know after 9/11, Frank Miller,
had a little meltdown.
Well, whatever. I mean, things that he said and reaction to that, I think in a lot of people's minds portrayed him in a certain way. And right or wrong, I don't know the man. I've met him once a long time ago for a very brief second. But I don't know the man at all, so I have no idea what his politics are or what what he thinks about this kind of stuff. But I feel like that has so tainted his work that even something like this, where I don't know that it's necessarily like you can point to it and say, well, this is a sort of right-wing conservative Batman. It's a fucking lunatic of a Batman, but he doesn't portray that as a good thing, like as a positive thing.
It's like almost like I don't know, I think I said this last time we were talking about it. He has a window into that mindset that you can see that like he gets it. Like when in that book, when he's talking about like the permissive society and like all these things, he hits that hard.
Yeah.
Like it is like
he empathizes with that point of view.
Yeah, like he can get into that mind space and you get it and you feel it. Which I think is unique. Like, I don't know that, like,
I think it's very unique.
There's a lot of people
for a 20-something.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Yes. Yeah. To
right.
Like,
for a 50-something.
Like,
I don't think it's that unique. But for a 20-something to tap into that, I think it's
he did this in 1985. He was doing this.
But do you think it's something that he agrees with? Or
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think I just think he obviously in his like, I agree, like a lot of the post 9/11 stuff, I think you can't help but sort of be a little bit like,
Absolutely.
Okay, what's right, because like he has very much like made like
public statements that would make you absolutely think those things. Justifiably so.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I don't think it's like I don't think it's like something like it's been in the back of his mind. But I think he's obviously someone who can wrap his head around those thoughts, right?
Sure.
And he's somebody even when he's younger, like gets
But once again, or is it? To me, it's like, especially now that I've spent a great deal of time watching and studying the movies of the 70s, and.
You might just be
and the early 80s. I mean, but no, if you look at like a movie like Dirty Harry, you look at Taxi Driver, those movies were the beginning of that sort of thing. And they're two very different movies though. Like they're very similar in some ways, but the point of view of both of them, in Dirty Harry, it's like, it is that permissive society, and Dirty Harry needs to clean it up. And it does a really good job of that, of like, you know, guy and like the Charles Bronson movies, you know, he did
Oh yeah,
Death
somewhere on
Wish.
your
Yeah.
death wish to Dirty Harry.
There's
to,
some Billy Jack in
your
there.
your spectrum of the world is falling apart.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. I
like
don't,
where you
but
fall on the death wish to
Mhm.
to
But then-
Taxi Driver spectrum.
Taxi Driver is it's the same movie in a sense as Dirty Harry.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Except
Motivation.
motivate. Yeah,
Yeah.
And Scorsese is not, you know, telling you that this guy's a good guy.
No,
No.
he's telling.
You know
he's
what I
telling.
mean?
He is telling a story about this guy.
So that's
But I
why
think what-
I then point to Dark Knight, and it's like, is Frank Miller telling you that Batman's a good guy in that book?
No, he's
I don't-
telling a
no,
story.
no.
About
I think what
yeah.
makes Frank Miller's, what makes Dark Knight Returns different from those is I think it's harder to get a grasp on it than it is in
Yeah.
Taxi Driver. Like at time, because like he doesn't. I think comics also give you that opportunity, right? Of like he can tell. There's so much visual changes to like how certain scenes happen, to how the page turns from one thing to the next, where he can unsettle you in a way that like Taxi Driver can't. Like Taxi Driver, like you kind of grasp what
There's-
Travis Bickle is.
Early
There's
on.
like gray areas, but you get
Yeah.
like
There's
where this
hints
is headed.
very early on that he is not a stable person, that he is
Yeah.
not,
Mhm.
you know, someone, that is
Yeah.
doing things for the right reasons.
Yeah, whereas I think like in Dark Knight Returns, there's like a little bit of like also because it's a superhero, right? Like Batman can affect a huge thing. He can, because there is no limit to what Frank Miller can be like. Batman is going to, like he's gonna arrest all the mutants in one shot, like I can do that, or he's gonna harness a whole army. Like there's no budget limitation,
Right,
so
right.
like he can do these fantastical things, and like that's part of it too, because it's still a superhero book, like
Yeah.
he's
We're
still-
when this comes out, we're not that far removed from Adam West Batman.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. That's why it
Right.
was such a groundbreaking thing, because it was
it's
such
like
a different
Ugh.
take on Batman. But
Yeah.
I think, it doesn't, it certainly, it certainly does not portray mental illness in a very good light, though.
No.
There's no forgiveness or for mental illness in
Yeah.
the Dark
Yeah.
Knight Returns.
yeah, no, it's like you're bad.
You're bad,
You're
and there's
bad.
no fixing you. And,
There's no fixing you.
yeah.
But it's like it's that he finds a way of mixing that stuff in a way where it's like that's a very clear like story element, right? That's like very clearly laid out, but like finding ways of making you like undercutting it at the same time as you go along. Well, anyway, it's a great book. Every time I read it, I always find something else to think about it that I haven't thought about before.
I think we should do a deep dive on DKR. I don't think that we've ever done it. We've talked a ton about it over multiple episodes and talked about Frank Miller. We should do a deep dive on it, just like the deep dive that we're going to do on the 6 issues of American Flag for our next trade talks, which we'll get into a lot of similar themes with. This is Sal's pick for our next trade talks.
If we were a better show, we really would, after we do that, we would be talking to Howard Chankin. Like if we were a real,
Let's make that
if
happen.
we were a real comic book podcast,
Yeah.
we would be talking to Frank Miller after we do a trade talks.
Yeah.
On the Dark Knight Returns.
Let's
can we
reach out
make
to
that
Howard.
happen?
Howard would, he would love to talk about it.
Well, he was gonna come on at one point, but we couldn't get a time.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Down, but yeah.
Let's do our next trade talk on American Flag, and I'm saying it now. We're gonna get Howard Chaykin.
Oh boy. Well, you know what that guarantees? That,
Nothing.
He'll be on Word Balloon within the next
Oh
month.
Jesus Christ! Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk American Flag. Let's get Chaykin on. We'll have Suntress on at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be coming up. Yeah, a couple weeks. We'll talk about American
Sure.
Flag.
Why
Right.
not? We should be talking to Kevin O'Neill. Is he still alive?
He is not.
What about Pat Mills?
Ooh.
Pat Mills still alive? Yeah, I think he might be still alive.
We still have connection with Richard Starkings, who I think did all the lettering
Well,
on all that stuff.
As the official talent booker of the Around Comics podcast, you need
I'll
to
work
get
on it.
Yeah, you need to
I'll
get
work
that
on
stuff.
it. I'll work on it.
Awesome.
All right. Hey, everyone, thank you for listening to this here episode. Let me know if The Last of Us is fucking with you as much as it is with me. Send us an email, info@aroundcomics.com. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/aroundcomics. That's what I got. It's good to talk to you guys.
Yeah, that was fun. I love when we dive into something meaty like that.
Yeah.
And like, actually have like different points of view or different ideas on stuff.
Chew on that bone.
Yeah, that was fun. Good stuff.
Good stuff. All right. We will be back next week, next Thursday, 8:00 Central Standard Time. If you're on the tubes to watch and chime in, otherwise catch us on your favorite podcast catcher. In the meantime,
In between time.
we'll be everywhere in
And around
them comic books
Comics.
and
Frank
stuff.
Miller.
Comics.